How's it going, YouTube, Facebook, all my friends at the Pro Wrestling Collective? This is your friend Jimmy Faluca here. Hope you guys are doing all right. With this snowstorm we got hit with here in New York, it's going to be a cold one, my friends. But I just want to get to the subject matter at hand. This is a response video to a YouTube channel that I am self-admittedly a very big fan of. The name of the channel is OTRSCentral, done by a great gentleman by the name of Jeff. Anyone who is a wrestling fan who is not a subscriber should go directly to his channel and hit that subscribe button. I'm telling you, Jeff has some amazing content on his channel, more than worth watching. But I wanted to do this video because in his last video that he posted, which was a response to a lot of the reactions that came out of Edge winning the 2021 Royal Rumble, he said that he needed some help understanding why some people just couldn't wrap their arms around the fact that Edge won the Rumble. Now, I want to make sure that I make this clear from the beginning. This is not a hit piece on OTRSCentral. I have nothing but respect for the dude. I've been following his channel since 2013. The first time I ever saw his channel was his original Holiday Humbug series. I believe that was the series where he talked about lack of mid-card feuds, the Orton-Cena feud that would never die, why John Cena is not an all-time great. That was basically the subject matter. A couple of days during the holiday season where he talked about things that needed to be talked about. I have a great deal of respect for Jeff as a wrestling reviewer on YouTube. He doesn't pull punches. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks, whether you like it or not. He doesn't buy into bullshit propaganda, which I am very much appreciative of. He will still to this day call out the nonsense of John Cena, the whole run, all the guys, people talk about The Undertaker and his graveyard. John Cena's graveyard is way bigger. Way bigger. And not only is it the talents that he ruined, it's the millions of viewers that turned it off during his time at the top. So I want to make sure it's clear that I have nothing but love for Jeff. This is more of me just giving him answers to his questions on his latest video regarding Edge winning the Royal Rumble. So, Jeff, I'm going to get right to it. Okay. He mentioned how the same people that were in tears of joy when Edge returned, came out of retirement, and when he was forced into retirement, are the same people that are crying and moaning that he won the Rumble. Now, I just want to make sure that this is clear to anyone who's listening, if anyone is listening. You can have felt sorry for Edge when he retired because it was not of his own choice. He was forced into retirement. And when he came back, you are able to feel happy about that he was able to return, able to get back into the Rumble. But you also have the ability to say, why is he winning the Royal Rumble? It's a perfectly natural response. I assure you. It is not far-fetched that anyone could feel sorry that he was forced into retirement, but scratch their head saying, why did he win the Rumble? It is a perfectly logical question to ask, and we will elaborate on that. The next thing he talked about was, shouldn't we want to make up for lost time with Edge? We didn't have him for 10 years, and that is certainly something that I can get behind. We should make up for lost time, but we can make up for that lost time without him winning the Royal Rumble. I wasn't aware that he had to win the Royal Rumble in order for us to appreciate his time. Because he was in a Rumble last year, and he didn't win, and we were still able to appreciate the time that we had him. So how does that magically change for this year? It doesn't. We can still appreciate Edge and enjoy the time that he has left with us as a wrestler, but that doesn't mean he had to win the Royal Rumble in order for that to happen. So I don't know where Jeff was coming from with that. He talked about how people were mad that the winner won it from the number one spot. Now, I will be the first to say, I happen to like it when the person that's in the number one spot either lasts all the way to the end or actually wins it. When the Invisible Man won it in 2004, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I can't say that I watched the 95 Rumble when it happened, and I'm not the biggest fan of Shawn Michaels, so I guess, there is some bias there. But I don't think anyone's problem was the fact that Edge won it from the from the number 1 spot. He could have won it from the number 30 spot, and I still would be scratching my head saying, why did he win? And then he said, and this is where I kind of was like, Jeff, you know better. He says, someone said, Edge didn't need it, and then he just said, shut up. You said that, Jeff, because you know it's true. He did not need it. And this is a trend that the WWE has been engaging in since The Rock came back in 2011. Giving guys that are already made, already solidified, already their cement is dry, they cannot become bigger than what they are, and yet we are still giving them achievements and big moments that they just don't need. Are you going to honestly sit there and say, with a straight face, that Edge needed to win that Rumble? We both know the answer to that question, sir, and the answer is unequivocally no. I mean, the first 10 seconds of your video, Edge, he's a Hall of Famer. That's why. That's why. Dude, he had his time, and it's over. And when I say he had his time, I'm talking about winning Rumbles, winning King of the Rings, winning world titles, main eventing WrestleMania. He had his time, and it's over. The Undertaker had his time. Just so you know, diehard Taker fan, got all the respect in the world for him. I respect him more than anyone. He had his time. It's over. Brock had his time. It's over. Batista had his time, so on and so forth. Goldberg. I understand Jeff's a big Goldberg mark, and that's perfectly fine. You like Goldberg, that's your cup of tea? Cool. He had no business winning that title. And thank fucking God he didn't. But Jesus Christ, man. You know, you did this last year when Goldberg beat The Fiend for the title, and you know that if that was John Cena beating The Fiend in the fashion that he was beat, you would have blew a gasket, and you would have been right in doing so. But magically, because it was Goldberg, it was perfectly okay? No, the fuck it wasn't. No, the fuck it wasn't. I mean, like I mentioned before, this is a trend that WWE has been engaging in since The Rock came back, constantly relying on these legends to pop a number. Constantly relying on these legends to create interest, because they absolutely refuse to do that with the guys that they have. Jeff also mentioned that, what did he mention? Yes, Jeff talked about how in the past, he has talked about how the WWE does rely on legends, how they don't focus on the future. But then he also went on to say that Edge isn't like Brock, he isn't like Goldberg, and to a degree he is correct. He is correct in the aspect of Edge is not a worker like Brock or Goldberg in which they are limited. Well, Brock limits himself on purpose because he gives the bare minimum. That's just who he is, unfortunately. Because you could go back to 2003, 2002, Brock Lesnar knows how to have a fucking match. He just chooses not to because he's lazy. And Goldberg, he's always been limited, but at the end of the day, in his day, you know, it didn't matter because he was a big draw. No one could deny that. But while Edge is not a worker like they are, the fact does not change. He is already in the Hall of Fame, Jeff. He's already in the Hall of Fame. So this is an achievement wasted. Because, I hate to be the one to say this, it's the law of diminishing returns with these legends. You know, I'm sorry, but you know it's true. Every single time that they constantly rely on these names from the past, you think that the interest is the same that it was when the legends first showed up and the WWE first started leaning on them? No. Like I mentioned, it's a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound, bro. It's the law of diminishing returns. That's exactly what it is. That viewership is going to continue to drop. It's been a steady decrease, no matter who they bring back. And I know, because I remember you hammering this home about how when The Rock came back in 2011 and how they threw WrestleMania 27 under the bus to get to 28 and then 29, that because they had great business success with the once in a lifetime, they weren't going to rock the boat and do it again at 29. But the bottom line is, once The Rock left, that extra interest that was there when he was wrestling left with him. So while these legends may create a buzz for the short term, long term, you're doing damage to your own show. Because what you're telling whatever casual audience you have left is these guys are the real stars, and the guys you see every week, they really don't matter. So you shouldn't give a shit about them. And if that doesn't hammer home that you shouldn't give a shit about the guys from today, the way they book more than half these guys certainly hammers it home. No one can deny that. And now we're going to get into the fact that there were other options to win this damn Rumble. No one's going to sit here and tell me that Edge was the only option. And Jeff, you said that multiple times in the video, and I'm sorry, sir, but you were mistaken. You had 3 other options that you could have went with, and it would have worked just fine. The problem is, those other 3 options would have required Roman Reigns to drop the belt at WrestleMania. And everyone that watches your page knows you don't want that, because you're hammering home that Roman's got to hold this title probably till next year. And the other options you had required him to drop it. And you call Triple H God. But that son of a bitch had a freaking vice grip on the World Heavyweight title during that reign of doom. And part of the reason that it's looked at as a reign of doom is because you didn't get as many payoffs as you should have. What, you want Roman to be the same thing that Triple H was? It's the same shit in a different wrapper, dude. You had other options. You had Big E. You're going to sit here and tell me that the Intercontinental Champion winning the Royal Rumble to challenge the Tribal Chief and walk out of WrestleMania a double champion wouldn't have been fucking cool? You're going to tell me that Big E, after breaking away from the New Day against his will, but embracing his singles career and winning that title from Roman, wouldn't have been a career maker for him? Come on, you know that. And then we get to the elephant in the room that nobody seems to want to talk about. The Fiend. You know, Roman kicks him in the balls, throws him out of the ring, pins Braun Strowman, and steals the Fiend's title. And magically, the Fiend doesn't give a shit about this. That makes absolutely no sense. Stone Cold Steve Austin is 1,001% correct when he says, if you don't want to be the world champion in pro wrestling, then you're in the wrong business. Because at the end of the day, it is not supposed to be about who's the face of the brand, who's this, who's that. It's supposed to be about who's holding the world title. I want it. It's time for me to take it from you. That's how it's supposed to be. And the fact that The Fiend had the belt literally stolen from him in storyline, everyone knows it's scripted, Jeff, so don't go calling me a mark. I know you probably have already. He had the title stolen from him, and it doesn't seem to matter to him, and that's dumb. It's absolutely dumb. The bottom line is, The Fiend showing up at the end, ensuring Randy Orton does not win, and winning the Royal Rumble would have made much more sense than Edge winning it. Because you could make a strong argument. The Fiend remembers that Roman took something that belongs to him. Already, I presented you with 2 characters that would have a much stronger story than Edge challenging Roman for the title. And with The Fiend selling more merch than anyone else, being the most interesting character, you're going to tell me the dynamics between a heel Roman and an anti-hero Fiend doesn't make for a great recipe? Oh, wait, I forgot. Jeff keeps trying to pretend that Roman's a babyface because Jeff's on his Bobby Heenan shit. You're something else, brother. You are something else. I got to give you that. You are a true professional. You stick to your gimmick. I got to give the devil his due. But yes, you can make a valuable case for Big E to challenge Roman. You can make an even stronger case for The Fiend. And now I hit you in the face with some reality, whether you like the guy or not, and I suspect that you don't, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Daniel Bryan had a legitimate story heading into WrestleMania to win the Rumble and fight Roman. Now, I will admit, I did not want Daniel Bryan to win the Rumble because I have zero faith in the WWE that they would have told the story correctly. Because in their dumb dick mind, they would have had Roman just beat him, and that would have been it. In actuality, the story should have been Bryan wins the Rumble. He lets it be known he's challenging Roman. He has no interest in Drew McIntyre. He's already won the WWE title. He's never had the Universal title, and he's got an axe to grind with Roman. And the story is simple. The 2015 Royal Rumble. You peel that fucking curtain back. Daniel Bryan's retirement. You peel that curtain back. You have him confront Roman and flat out say, they held me back for you. You were coming out here every week getting booed. These people wanted me. They forced me into retirement to keep me out of your way because you couldn't get past me. And you could have Roman finally break his facade and flat out say the world was going to be handed to me on a silver platter. And all because of your short ass, it was taken from me. These people rejected me because of you. So I'm going to make it my business to make sure that you kneel at my feet at WrestleMania. And that's why the finish should have been Daniel Bryan hits the fucking Busaiku knee and pins him 1, 2, 3. Because you don't validate bullshit like that nonsense from the Royal Rumble in 2015. You don't validate that decision. You don't. You don't validate that they kept Bryan in retirement even though he had every neurologist that he went to saying he was good to go, but they retired him because they didn't want him in Roman's way. You don't validate that type of decision. No, you have Bryan beat him. And even if Roman takes the title right back from him on SmackDown the very next week, who cares? You had the moment at WrestleMania, you had the payoff, and now the cycle continues. So, those were your options, Jeff. Those were your options. Edge wasn't the only option, and I just proved it to you. And then Jeff went on to say that the pro wrestlers today can't deliver the goods. Jeff, the wrestlers today in 2021 have the least amount of power over their fate than ever in history. Can you name another time frame where the wrestlers had less control over their fate? Can you? You know you can't. You get into pro wrestling so you could cut promos, but we got writers to do that for you. You get into pro wrestling so you could formulate your matches, but we have agents for that. You get into pro wrestling so you could become a character. Oh, we have a creative team for that. You get into pro wrestling so that you could reach the tops. Oh, well, it has to be up to us in order for you to get there. They've never had less control. Never had less control. And it's asinine for you to say that they have any responsibility because they don't. They are at the mercy of a 70-plus-year-old CEO who was self-admittedly out of touch over 20 damn years ago. What is he now? And you can't make the argument that there weren't guys that didn't get over. You're going to tell me Punk wasn't white hot? Of course he was. WWE didn't want to go all the way with him because his name wasn't Cena. Same with Bryan. You're going to tell me he didn't have popularity? He had massive popularity. They didn't want to go all the way with him. Look at Kevin Owens. When Kevin Owens first showed up on the main roster, he beats John Cena in his first match. His merchandise sales start to percolate up. Cena start percolating down. So, of course, what did they do? They made Kevin Owens John Cena jobber bitch. To quote you, good sir. Even Ryback, not a big fan of the guy. He got himself over. What did they do? They made him lose a string of pay-per-views. They turned him heel, fed him to Cena, and that was it. That was it. Look at Seth Rollins. When Seth Rollins won the WWE title in 2015, he lost on free television to Cena 100% clean 5 times. 5 times. And the last time was a freaking submission. Look at AJ Styles. When they brought AJ Styles in, that guy was always playing second fiddle to somebody else, whether it was Cena or whether it was Reigns. AJ Styles is the greatest wrestler of his generation, and it's not close. You show me someone who's a better wrestler than AJ Styles. Can you name one? From his generation, who was a better wrestler? I welcome your response in the comment section. But, like I mentioned, for you to say that these wrestlers can't bring the goods, the WWE doesn't allow them to bring the goods because they don't want any of these guys to get over because, and you know this as well as I do, the WWE is no longer in the business of making stars. The only star that they want is the brand. And because of that business model, none of these guys are allowed to get past a certain level. So it's not on them. The business model's got to change. And then unfortunately, that's not going to happen until Vince croaks. Unless, of course, God and his beloved are going to continue the same nonsense. I certainly hope not, but I'm not too optimistic. Jeff also mentioned, as a callback to the 2001 Royal Rumble, that with the performance Kane had, people would have shit on Austin for winning. I don't think so. And I can tell you that because Stone Cold Steve Austin was the most popular professional wrestler in history. I understand you're a big Hogan fan. I personally can't stand Hulk because he never put over the Macho Man, who was more than worthy of it. However, no shame in admitting the popularity of Hulk Hogan. If there's a pro wrestling Mount Rushmore, he belongs on it. Probably the biggest head on it. But to sit here and say that people would have turned on Austin because of Kane's performance, Stone Cold's popularity was astronomical. Astronomical. No one wanted to boo Steve at the height of his popularity. And even after he kind of fell off because of the neck injury and he came back, he was still white hot. That wasn't going to happen. Not going to happen. And the truth of the matter, Jeff, to finish this all off, Edge really has no story heading into the WrestleMania to win the world title from either guy. He has no story. What, Spear versus Spear, him and Roman, that's a story? Come on. Compare that to the other three guys I just gave you. With Big E Langston breaking away from the New Day, holding the Intercontinental title. He wins the Royal Rumble. Now he's trying to become a double champion and solidify his name in history. You're going to tell me that Edge, returning from injury from last year and challenging Roman, is a better story? How? The Fiend, the best character in the company, selling more merchandise than anyone else, didn't even get pinned to lose that title. And when he had the mandible claw on Roman, Roman was struggling. And the only way he could get out of it was football kicking the Fiend in his nuts. And then you get to Daniel Bryan. I mean, my God. You say anyone that would take him over Edge is stupid. Well, to quote you, ding dong, dumb dick, you're going to tell me Daniel Bryan being forced into retirement and being pushed to the back when he was the people's choice, but Roman was the corporate choice, isn't a great story to be told? I mean, for Christ's sakes, in Daniel Bryan's book, Vince McMahon told him Roman was his choice going into WrestleMania 30. Into WrestleMania 30, when everyone and their mother was cheering for Bryan over everyone fucking else. You're going to tell me that Edge, the legend, getting one last shot at glory is a better story than that? Get your head examined, dude. Come on. You're way smarter than that. You're way too smart. That's why I'm doing this. Because I know you're smarter than that. You asked for help. I gave it to you. Would be nice to hear from you. Doubt that'll happen. I doubt you'll even watch this. But if you did, thank you. And take good care of yourself. Hopefully that answers all your questions. Take care, guys.